And Filipino martial arts is guilty of this all the time. When we say, yeah, we're a complete art, we also have striking and grappling. I'd be like, yeah, you have grappling, but you really.
Hello, my name's Jamie Sparling. Welcome to the FormABLE Podcast, where we talk about formable moments in martial arts training, and the lives of martial artists. Today, I have Paolo Rubio here, and he is a Filipino martial artist as well as a storyteller. How's it going today, Paulo?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Jamie.
I,
Appreciate it.
yeah, I appreciate you stopping by. In the midst of researching you a little bit, something I thought that was just fascinating is you seem to have gained your following through trying to put on other people or trying to help other people right out the gate, different martial artists. Could you tell us a little bit about that piece in your journey to where you're at now?
Yeah, of course. So there's a part of it that I'm going to make a long story short, and
Okay.
I was somehow dragged into the, tactical law enforcement, professional security, military world, by way of some of my work with combat veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder.
Good.
So, having been pulled into this world, I had the opportunity to sort of travel the globe looking for subject matter experts across the full spectrum of fighting. And I was able to discern, let's say, quality from these subject matter experts just based on a few clips that I would see of them online. So I would travel to where they are, would have a little chat. And yeah, basically just by way of me having the ability to make videos and tell a story, I'm able to sort of elevate people's social footprint so that a broader audience could get to know their story and learn from them. So that's how I started, really, just traveling the world looking for awesome people across the full spectrum of fighting, made super dope videos of them. And in that process, you know, I had stayed in, police barracks in France and in Poland, in the Philippines, and I would have these moments with these, whether they're special operators, regular force guys, police, thugs. I get to have dinner and drink and party with these people after the work is done, and I just had access to a lot of knowledge, wisdom, and information. And not only that, I was tasked with retelling some of these stories. So I would edit a video about a particular technique, concept, or style. So I have hard drives full of information relating to fighting. And then just by virtue of that process, I started training myself. There were some instrumental people that got me to sort of alchemize the knowledge that I had acquired into some semblance of, physical skill and
Mhm.
coordination, and then coupling that with my ability to be able to teach. It's allowed me to sort of do for myself what I had been doing for other people for many years.
That's great,
Yeah.
man. That's great. Uh, you talked about having access to people,
Yes.
uh, but at the same time, a lot of folks can have access, but you seem
Yeah.
to have a genuine interest and curiosity in their
Yes.
stories. Yeah. Did that help form that kind of piece?
Yeah, 100%. And also because of the nature of my relationship with these people, they weren't trying to make me their student. They
Mm,
weren't trying to get me to sign up to a 3-month contract or a 1 year for an even bigger discount. It was this sort of symbiotic, mutually beneficial relationship where the more of what they knew was shared with me, then the better outcome it is for both myself and them. And so I was able to just cut through a lot. I mean, fundamentals and basics are incredibly important,
yeah.
but after doing this for a while, you come to realize that it's the same handful of principles that permeate across thousands of techniques, right? So going through a white belt, going one, two, three, four, I sort of was able to bypass that as I traversed around different styles, systems, concepts, and organizations.
That's
And
great.
yes, genuinely curious about it. But I also, because, I sort of bypassed the whole, master student relationship, if you will. And so I'm able to just ask them like, okay, this is great, but isn't this part kind of BS?
Yeah.
um, and just really get to the heart of it. And then they'd be like, okay, between you and me, yeah, that part is quote unquote BS, but here's why we do it. Right. So I'm able to ask questions and maintain my sovereignty, my freedom as a critical thinker to be able to just genuinely ask questions about things somebody which I didn't always have that at the very beginning.
Hmm.
I just thought everything was cool and everything worked and everything had direct transferability between what a drill is and the application. So I just thought everything was awesome. I made some mistakes and expressing that to people. But as I stuck around, I was like, okay, some of the stuff that I was showing in the past, for example, I'm kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe I made a video with that guy and showed that series of techniques as something that's supposed to be practical, where now I'm like, this is absolutely bullshit. So I've I've made mistakes in the past and presented things incorrectly and maybe given some people the limelight that I would never do.
I understand that. I mean, thank you for your blatant honesty. You're known as someone who's a blade expert and always looking into those pieces and whatnot. But I don't know that we as human beings can become good teachers without making those mistakes. And then if we can't admit them, right, then
Yeah.
that's a
Oh
piece of
yeah.
that as well.
Huge. And I don't know how this is happening, but the more honest I become with people, not just about what I teach, but what others may be presenting, the more honest and blunt I am about it, I feel like the right people respect that,
Yeah.
you know? So I feel like I know that there are some pretty high level people who are more skilled than me, bigger, stronger than me, smarter than me, with more experience than me, who count on my research and my ability to teach those things. So it's humbling, because I'm like, this guy's like a four-tour combat veteran, and he's a sheriff now at this metropolitan city, and he's looking to me to help him solve a particular problem. And I'd never signed the dotted line. I was never military. I was never a police guy. But I think at these levels, there's a reason why even military units recruit civilian sports shooters to teach them a thing or two about, firearms manipulation. Because they have to,
Hmm.
they have to they have to turn every stone to be able to round off their knowledge base. And sometimes that might be just to figure out if somebody's full of shit or not.
Right.
The
And I
only, the
mean,
only way to figure it out is to turn that stone over and be like, oh yeah, this is nonsense.
yeah, and sometimes the more the person might be, quote unquote, full of it, they totally believe everything that they're saying at the same time. You know, perhaps maybe it's through being ignorant to a pressure test or whatever that is.
Yeah, well, pressure testing, I've made like thousands of videos. Sometimes I would come across a video that I made and I hadn't seen it in a couple of years. So it feels like I'm watching somebody else. And there was a video about pressure testing that I did. I reposted recently where it was like, people have this wrong impression of what a pressure test is. Some people do a pressure test to sort of validate biases that they already have and to
Mm,
prove to everyone that something works. But pressure testing isn't a one-shot deal to determine the validity of something. It's a constant ongoing process to find out where you are in relation to this thing that you're trying to learn. And you get older, you get injuries, your interests change, your perspectives change. So the relationship between you and that thing that you're trying to train will also change. And you hear this from people who compete at high levels of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
hmm.
There's sort of an arc. at the very beginning, it's the fundamentals that constantly work. And then at some point, those fundamentals kind of stop working for whatever reason, or it stops working for them. And then again, it comes back. Like later on in their career, it's like, oh my God, this is stuff that I was doing when I was a blue belt. And now I'm able to execute it at a black belt in these high level tournaments. So I think the same thing happens with every martial art. You just end up going back to the basics, the fundamentals, and just finding new ways to express or execute them. And pressure testing should reflect the fact that you're not the same person as you were,
Hmm.
just even a few months ago.
Absolutely. When it comes to pressure testing, or however we choose to define that piece. At our
Sure.
school, I have students that are in every age group from 27 on to 75. How would you go about pressure testing or creating good skills at the very least for such
Yeah.
a diverse kind of age group and still try to hold a standard?
Well, that standard needs to be fluid,
Hmm.
because when I do my seminars, I ask at the very beginning a few questions. One is there a knife defense technique that works for everyone? The answer is no. If I believe in an outside two-on-one control, a little old lady is not going to be able to pull that off against,
Yes, sir.
a big, right? So there's no knife defense technique that works for everybody. And then I ask, is there a knife defense technique without any vulnerabilities, without
Mm.
any hold? So the answer is no. So then we come to the conclusion that different things work for different people and at different times under different conditions. So the nature of pressure testing should also be fluid and realistic. And not every pressure test needs to be a full-blown rehearsal going on 100%. There's a term I like to use called quality controlling, for example,
Okay.
right? So we do a quality control rather than a pressure test. And we can quality control your grip. We can quality control your ability to stop an angle one attack with a bisecting line. We can quality control your ability to parry a jab, right? And so when you quality control something, there isn't a pass fail standard, right? Because when you quality control someone's inside parry for a 7-year-old, that's going to be held at a different standard than somebody who's been training for a long time and is at their physical prime, right? So I don't you like there should be a pass fail to like a scenario training, for example. But as
Hmm.
far as the pressure testing goes, the idea is as an instructor, we ought to be able to efficiently give students opportunities where they make mistakes and then they can go again and try to remedy or correct or modify.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for that. I sincerely appreciate that. I struggle with that at my school because I have so many different types of people, and I want to keep
Mm,
the standard high, but at the same time, I do believe it should be fluid too. Uh,
for sure.
someone like myself, when I first came into martial arts, I was a fat little kid that watched a lot of TV. And so nothing, you know, uh, anything physical didn't make a lot of sense to me. And I'll be damned if my first instructor didn't give me a pair of sticks. And next thing I know, body mechanics happened. Maybe not the best body mechanics, but at the same time, more than there was at the same, beforehand. So,
Yeah. And I mean, as instructors, a lot of instructors pride themselves in connecting on an individual level with a particular student. So it's just a reflection of that. People learn differently and at different rates. And so our pressure testing or our quality controlling ought to reflect that. So if you're not going to have one way to teach everybody, then there shouldn't be one standard, a pass fail that fits everybody. Because again, there are no techniques without any vulnerabilities. There's no perfect technique. Everything has a counter. And then also, there isn't a technique that works for everybody. We know this.
yeah.
So testing should sort of reflect that.
I totally agree. Thank you. And there are a lot of people. I don't think necessarily like that piece, martial arts. A lot of times, I'm in Wisconsin and stuff, and sometimes folks still have an idea of a Karate Kid kind of martial fantasy at times, you know, and they're almost on their own hero's journey, if you will, in the training. Uh,
Yeah, that's one of my biggest problems is, and I'll be blunt, a lot of students are just dumb and ignorant. And good for them for wanting to take martial arts to be able to solve some perceived problems they have in their life. But if students were more educated coming in, it'd make my life a whole lot easier because then I wouldn't have to compete with the person who's spewing out certainties, lies, and bullshit online. And I can say, look, I fail in my own classes. I mess up my own drills that I created based on a drill that I've been doing forever. I
mhm.
still mess that up. And so when, but I mean, people have, daddy issues and they want to look for certainties and they want to believe that the thing that they're investing in is definitely going to help with the problem that they think they're going to have. And they're not willing to go, yeah, even the most well-trained knife guy is subject to the specific elements that may be present when his day comes, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah, I mean,
I think
anything
that's
can
just
happen.
maybe that's just part of the human element, though. Like sometimes when a student comes in, they have to tell us exactly what they think they're going to do. And then we try to process that a little bit. And sometimes in my mind, I'm just like, yeah, that's not
Yeah.
at all what we're going to do. But
Yeah.
now I know
Well, the
where
thing
you're
is
coming from.
also, if it's a business, right? This is where it becomes a little bit problematic.
Hmm.
And I have conversations with JKD people about this all the time. I think they're trying to do too much. And so when a student comes into let's say you had a Taekwondo academy, right?
Hmm.
A student comes in with their parent and their parents like, I really want my son to have um, good punching ability. And the Taekwondo person will go, no problem. We got you. We got you covered. Sign up. Uh, and so when you have a business, when you're concerned with student acquisition and retention and paying the utilities and the rent and everything else that comes
Hmm.
with it, you tend to oversell your product. I mean, but I get it. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure a Taekwondo guy will be like, yeah, our hands are just as valid as, don't sign up to that boxing academy. We got you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. I don't know either, right? But at the same time, that makes a whole lot of sense thinking, well, yeah, we throw punches. We throw punches, so, we totally have you right here. Or sometimes
Yeah.
for a group, they'll maybe do like one Filipino martial arts weaponry class per 4-week cycle. And they're like, oh no, we teach that here too. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, it's not exactly the same thing as someone who specializes in that.
And Filipino martial arts is guilty of this all the time when we say, yeah, we're a complete art. We also have striking and grappling. I'd be like, yeah, you have grappling, but you really don't have a methodology to really have a solid grappling foundation, not like the jujitsu guys do.
Yeah.
But I get it. I get it. It's fine.
Yeah, I get it too. Yeah, I mean that I am a business owner. We own a martial arts school. Uh, I'm also certified in Jeet Kune Do and Filipino martial arts and all that stuff. But the root of that, I think, sometimes, at least my understanding, is to seek out the experts in those particular fields and then take it for what it's worth, or
Yeah.
what I personally am going to invest my time in.
Yeah. And also, most people are not going to find themselves in an altercation with a knife. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And so, this is how I sometimes characterize it. Okay. If I have a 6-year-old son,
Hmm.
and I wanted him to learn the foundations of how to play basketball. Michael Jordan isn't going to be the best coach for him. It's going to be the high school coach who runs a weekend program, right? And so I kind of get it. Yeah, I understand, right? Um, it's all relative to the individual anyway. So if a 7-year-old wanted to learn how to punch, he could totally go to a Taekwondo academy and learn. And, it's not he's probably going to get more value out of that than learning from Mike Tyson.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Sometimes in class, well, I bring up Michael Jordan as well. Is like, well, all of us could go and do a private lesson with Michael Jordan, and that doesn't mean that we're going to be floating through the air. And the classic
right.
pose in an hour, that just means
Right.
that, we get to ooh ah, we get to be inspired, and maybe we'll possibly learn something.
Yeah, or like, if I was making minimum wage and I'm in debt, having a business lunch with Warren Buffett isn't going to do me much good. Maybe I just go to my bank and talk to a financial planner. But, if I had a few $1 million in the bank and I was well off, then I'm really able to extract the expertise that someone like Warren Buffett um,
Hmm.
can give me. And the same thing with martial arts. If you're just starting out, I always say that if you're just starting out in martial arts, don't necessarily seek the best martial arts training. Seek the one that's the closest to where you live,
Mm.
right? Like that, because you're gonna go there way more often than if you had to, commute 30 minutes, 45 minutes to the best jujitsu academy. That's going to be a short flight path, But if there was a karate dojo, walking
Hmm.
distance from where you live, like especially if you're starting out, maybe start with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. How do you feel about well, sometimes I'll tell people, don't worry about the art as much as the instructor.
Oh,
Like, to
100%.
get along with the instructor and to believe in the instructor, and then from there the it goes forward. You agree?
Yeah, 100%. And because I've traveled the world, I'm able to validate this. There are world-class instructors in every discipline that nobody knows about that lives in the middle of nowhere
Hmm.
in rural Arkansas.
Yep.
Just like there are absolute shitbirds who teach in New York City, right? So
Hmm.
the instructor matters way more than, the organization. 100%, 100% agree.
Absolutely
Yeah.
appreciate that. Um, what do what do you find that really helps your students the most in martial art progression?
So I have the luxury of not caring about whether my students stay or go. I love them all, by the way, and I wish they would all stay.
Hmm.
And so I'm able to use them as my laboratory for teaching methodology. And right off the bat, what I wanted to do with my Filipino martial arts, as far as an instructor, is how quickly can I get somebody to functional, fairly high level skill sets? Like, how quickly can I do that? And then hopefully in the process of me making them good really, really fast, they fall in love with the art and they stick around. So what really helps my students is a non-linear teaching style. So somebody would come in for the first time and I wouldn't get them to do fundamentals that day. You're going to do whatever I wanted to do that day with the people who have been training with me for a while.
Hmm.
That lack of structure, or that specific kind of structure, I should say, it's a double-edged sword, because you can absolutely cognitively bury somebody that day. And they're like,
Hmm.
whoa, this is too complex. I'm not going to sign up. But that linear pedagogy is the way that I teach my students. And so we might start with, learning double stick, high box, sombrada right
Hmm.
off the gate. And I try not to let them get good at any one drill. I try to, as soon as they get comfortable with it, as soon as they get into automation mode, I introduce something else. I introduce something different. Because a lot of Filipino martial arts, as far as what the broader general audience sees, is like the better somebody looks at doing a drill, the more skilled they must be. And
Obviously.
right, obviously, clearly. And the nature of flow drills is that at its base, it's a choreography. There's expectations, there are patterns within it. And so when people learn a new drill, once they break through what I call the memorization barrier, So the memorization barrier is like, I need to know all the steps. We need to have consent, low line thrust, backhand, and then we flow. Once you get past that memorization barrier, when you can do it autonomously, that's really the beginning of skill development,
Yeah.
right? That's when you can really develop skill, timing, precision, work on some in-fight tactics. But what people end up doing once they scale over the memorization barrier is they just want to do it faster and harder, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like, wow, that looks really, really good. That looks really good. Well, how well are you at actually doing an outside parry for a really, really fast angle one? How good are you that really when each time you do it, you know exactly where that angle one is coming from and when it's coming? But the broader the people watching Instagram don't know that. They
Mm-hmm.
just go, holy smokes. Because number one, a casual observer won't be able to identify that there is a pattern in that flow drill that they're doing. They just think, holy smokes, that looks crazy. And they're going really, really fast. So these guys must be super credible. And I've tested this. I've taken people with absolutely no Filipino martial arts experience, and within an hour of just trying to memorize this one sequence, I can make them look like they've been doing it for a really, really long time.
Mm.
Easy. It's easy to fake this stuff. And yeah,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Something I was researching you a little bit and I came across uh, you talking about your time doing PTK,
yeah,
and you did a lot of like fights to
yes.
help others, right, in their testing process. And that, if I got it correctly, is kind of how you learned quite a bit of material as opposed to someone that was flow drill oriented and
Yeah.
then tried to spar with it later.
Yeah, it's actually like a two-pronged thing. Number one, like I work with Grant Tuhan, Jared Wihungi on a project called Pikiti University, right?
Hmm.
So we would travel the world, we would film tutorials. So I would direct it, I would film it, and I would edit it. So I'm constantly immersed in Pikiti Tertia knowledge.
Hmm.
I wasn't interested in learning the difference between panabas and apuntadas and a sungkete and a santikan and what the heck is this. I really wasn't interested in that. But in the conferences, like the Asia conference, which happens once every 2 years, the Euro conference, which is attended by massive Vikings, and especially like the USA conference, those are like the PTTA, Pikiti Tertia Tactical Association USA conference. It's like bangers. Like if you want to fight, you go to that one. They all have their own character.
Sure.
But if you wanted to level up as an instructor in the Pikiti Tertia Tactical Association, you undergo um, testing, and as part of that test, they put you to 3 to 5 fights in a row. You know, full contact ish, depending on who it is, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Stick fights. And so, because there are typically more people wanting to test than there are people ready to test them, I would always just go, "Yep, put me in. I'll fight them." And so there was one conference where I had like 18 fights in a row just because of all the people that wanted to cycle through and test out their skills. And actually, by the end of that, Grand Tuhan Jared and Tuhan Kit were like, hey, you can't deny this rank anymore. This is your rank. I wasn't interested. Like, I didn't want to get the rank. But funny enough, as soon as I got it, I'm like, huh, I'm going to try to earn it. So I reverse engineered and I was like, I need to know, the terms and I need to know a little bit of the history. And I especially need to know how to teach this stuff effectively.
Hmm.
So that's what I've been doing like the last 4 or 5 years is sort of earning the rank that I got by virtue of just having the ability to execute the material. Because these fights are filmed, and sometimes I would look at actually all the time, I would look at my fights and it'd be like, wait a minute, what's this technique that I did? And then I'd send it to a bunch of Tuhans and they'd go, oh, that's actually Seguida's set one. That's a portion of that, or that's part of the Dakupi Puño system that you did. I'm like, okay, good to know. So
That's that's so
yeah,
cool and absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. There. sometimes when I'm talking with students, I would think that there's usually two different kinds of ways that we take the promotion. One is thank you so much. I really, you know what I mean? And they know it. And then kind of whenever I get promoted to something, I'm like, oh crap, I got to work a little bit harder. And
Yeah.
and I was promoted to purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the middle of last year. And honestly, I'm just now starting to feel like a purple belt, you know.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know, that says something to the love of martial art to a certain degree. Like, oh.
So in Pikiti Tusha, I actually have two ranks. I am a guru in the PTTA,
Mhm.
but I'm a mandala in the overall system given to me by Grand Tuhon Leo Gahe right there. So that rank right there is higher than the one that I have from the organization that I actually put my heart into.
Mm.
Uh, So I'm working my way towards earning this rank, but this
Yeah.
is the rank that I have right now.
Could you explain mandala, please, sir?
Yeah, so in Pikiti Tersha, the highest rank you can get is Tuhon,
Mhm.
right? Um, and Mandala is just right below that.
Okay.
And so it would be like a Mandala would be like a black belt, and then Tuhon would be, you know, black belt with a whole bunch of stripes in it, working towards world belt, something like that.
Or something like that. You're very
Something like
casual about it, That's really cool.
yeah.
That's really
I'm trying to be as authentic a Filipino martial artist as I can be. There needs to be an element of humor and just being casual about it, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't have the Japanese or uh, Chinese culture of, hey, this art has existed for hundreds of years and it's codified in these scrolls, and we have a code of conduct and ethics and all that stuff. Filipino martial arts, it's more like, oh, you know how to do that? Cool. Like I like, sometimes doing so. I've quit smoking cigarettes for the most part, but I always joke that, once you see your Filipino martial arts instructor teach you with a cigarette and a beer in their hand, you're in an authentic Filipino martial,
Yeah.
a little bit tongue in cheek, but yeah, we Filipino martial arts doesn't I don't want to say shouldn't, but we don't wear our rank, whereas you wear your belt and you wear
Mhm.
your sash or whatever it is. In Filipino martial arts, you really don't know somebody's level. Even if you see them move, right? You'd be like, okay, they're higher up or lower down, but you don't really know their rank. That's good and bad because there are people who have Tuhan rank in some Filipino martial arts organizations and they suck. Like they just suck. Okay. We don't have the standardized respect that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has, where if you're a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, you really can't fake your way to being that. Not for very long anyway.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you I remember Guru Santo talking about the first time he was going to learn for the Filipino martial arts. He walked in the backyard and there's old guys that were in plaid pants and tropical t-shirts smoking
Yeah.
cigarettes, and he thought they're not even wearing the right clothes. And then he left a couple hours later going, I can't, like I can't believe his
Yeah.
whole world had just changed.
Yeah. No, it really is like that. And that's a double-edged sword too, That's part of the reason why Filipino martial arts isn't as widespread and popular as it can be, because there really is, for the most part, there are exceptions to the rule, of course. There's a lack of standardization and structure and a perceived lack of discipline within the culture of Filipino martial arts because the way in which we express respect isn't always, I mean, it's almost never really codified, where put our feet together, hands to your side, and bow. And when you exit the training facility, you do all these things. So it's a double-edged sword for the growth of Filipino martial arts. It lacking uh, a higher level of standardization and codification for sure.
Well, so many things are a double-edged sword, though, because it's also very easy to put your feet together and do the bow and turn your back to the testing board and retie your belt and all that. And
Yeah.
sometimes in American culture, or I don't know, here in Midwest culture, there's too much value placed on that
Yeah.
too.
No, for sure. Um, people like a familiarity and sort of a certainty of expectation, you know?
Hmm.
Um, and there's definitely a value to that, but it's not really the way that I've wanted to teach. Or it's also not the way that I like to learn. So
Yeah,
I don't do those.
sure.
Yeah, we
Me
should
too.
respect ways.
W-
Yeah.
would it be safe to say that it's almost more the Filipino martial arts is more like like a group is almost a little bit more like a family where there's not so much of a hierarchy, but everybody tends to, and not
Yeah.
everybody, I'm going to take out the word everybody, but
Sure.
relatively play well together and not worry as much about,
Yeah, a little bit. Like there is like in a Filipino family structure, there definitely is a hierarchy. Like who's in
sir.
charge and you know who the funny one is and who the one that kind of jokes around a little bit too much. Yeah, so within an internal group, yeah, certainly there's that. But out, there's still a lot of politics and infighting between different factions and organizations. It's getting better, I think. That's never going to go away. And it's funny. Like I make fun of every Filipino martial arts style, every Filipino martial arts, even especially the ones you're not supposed to make fun of, like Sayak or something. Like, ooh, or Balintawak. You're not supposed to make fun of those guys. You're not supposed to make fun of Kalisio Ilustrisimo. And I'm like, no, everybody does some goofy crap, and I'm gonna make fun of it. And that's part of Filipino culture, Like if somebody's gaining a little bit too much weight and they go to a family event, you call them fatty. If someone's if someone's skin is like this is true. If some Filipinos are light skinned, some Filipinos are dark skinned. So and there's still that colonial mentality where somebody's, dark, you kind of make fun of them. Hey, darky, or if they have curly hair, you call them curly. It's just that. It's just so I want to maintain that sense of, hey, we're gonna break each other's balls. We're gonna make fun of each other. We're not gonna take things a little bit too seriously. Some people really got mad at me about that at the beginning. Somebody threatened legal action, tried to
Really?
write me a cease and desist. Yeah, I'm like, I live in Canada and I'm making fun of this stupid thing that you guys do. Like, give me a break. Relax, okay? Like, if you know the value of the goofy thing that you're doing, you can accept the fact that it looks freaking goofy, okay? And you can certainly have a laugh about it with me. So I don't get those anymore. People kind of understand who I am and what I do for the community.
My first teacher is Steve Fristo in the Filipino martial arts. He's an African American gentleman. He was an albino, and he had uh, vision impairment, and
Yeah.
was just an amazing human being. But he used to say that he found that in the martial arts that were more deadly, right? This is the 90s when he started teaching me, but he always said that there was a lot more playing around and a
Yeah.
lot more fun and a lot more gaming in those particular styles than the ones where it was very your feet are together and hey.
Yeah, for sure. And even outside of the martial arts world, like the kind of banter and ball breaking that happens in a boxing gym, it's incredible, Like those guys rip on each other all the time. And I think it's necessary when people are actually aware of where they stand, in
Hmm.
the actual hierarchy of skill set. It's necessary to have a bit of a sense of humor about it, and especially in Filipino martial arts. Like the thing about, let's say, stick fighting, for
Hmm.
example. If I took somebody who plays, soccer or football or tennis, and I say, "Hey, here's a rattan stick. try to hit that grandmaster and they're going to try to hit you. All right. Like that newcomer with no experience, but has some physical coordination, they're going to hit them at some point.
Yeah.
They're moving way, way too fast and it can be unpredictable. And so for me, it's important for my students to understand that, hey, you can hit me.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm supposed to be your teacher, but you can find a moment where you clock me in the head. There could be a moment where I'm doing the drill and I hit myself in the head. Sure. Or like I'm trying to do a demo and my training partner isn't where they should have been and I get disarmed accidentally. Like that stuff happens all the time. And you know what else I see? Um, Professional warriors, professional soldiers, they'll still drop a mag on that firing line by accident. You know what I mean? Like they'll still make a mistake that they're like, "Oh my God, I'm embarrassed." I'm like, it happens.
Yeah.
It happens.
Do,
Absolutely, it happens.
do you find that being honest about those types of things and humanizing yourself as a teacher and stuff like that, does that help your students to feel more comfortable?
Yeah. And and also you gain a lot more respect from higher level people who are like, I can't believe this guy's saying the things that happen behind closed doors. So you get a lot, for me, I feel like a lot of really high level people appreciate what I have to offer
Hmm.
more, way more than the casuals and the novices actually. And so, man, like I'll tell you something. I do seminars in New York City every
Hmm.
year. Okay. And I want to talk about this guy. His name is Agapito Gonzalez.
All right.
This guy's been training Pikiti Tershakali since I think before I was born.
Mm.
And he's like the first guy to sign up to my seminars when they're announced. And this guy has probably forgotten more about Pikiti Tersha than I could ever acquire in the rest of my lifetime. But he's always the first one to sign up. And I like to think that it's because I can provide for him a new way to train something he's already good at, which makes him not so great at it, you know.
Yeah.
And I say this in my seminars also. I like to say, oh, maybe I'll ask you. What's the first punch you learn day one in a boxing class?
Jab.
Jab. Okay. At what point do you stop training that as a boxer?
Well, no, never.
Never.
Yeah.
Right. You just find different ways to train the thing that you already know. You find ways to make it fail so that you can improve upon it. And so this is why I think that that honesty that I honestly portray, these high level people gravitate to it because they're like, I'm not going to learn anything new going to Paulo's seminar, but maybe I can find a different way to train this thing that I've been working on for
Hmm.
20 years.
That makes a lot of sense, brother. Uh, you talk about creating drills, right?
Yes.
Or, yeah,
Yes.
how do you go through that process of
Okay.
creating drills and what, well, how do you go through that process?
That actually started because I fought a lot in Filipino
Okay.
martial arts.
Hmm.
Okay. And so something would happen to me where I'd be like internally deeply embarrassed that I can't believe this freaking guy landed that thing on me. So the process of creating drills begins with identifying deficiency.
Hmm.
What do I suck at? Right? What do I suck at? Well, I mean, you could suck at a technique. You can suck at the refinement of that technical line. And so by reverse engineering deficiencies, it's very easy to create drills. So for example, you try to hit me with an angle one,
Hmm.
and I try to do an inside payong or a roof block, and I mistime it, and then you end up clocking me in the head. So how can I compose a drill that would have me recognizing different ways that an angle one is thrown so that I can do okay, so let's create a drill. You're throwing an angle one at me. I'm doing an inside payong.
Hmm.
And then maybe your deficiency is a low line block for a thrust. And I know that about you, and you know this about me. So you throw angle ones at me, I do my roof block, and then I return with a low line thrust, and you defend that. And then all of a sudden we have a flow drill. that may be not unique, but unique to us because we're addressing things that we suck at right at this moment. So that's one way that you can create a drill. Um, Another way is just if you're in a system long enough, you begin to see flow drills as just structures that other people have created, made of these Lego pieces. And so, we all played with Legos as a kid. And part of the cool thing about Legos is after, you start building something, you're like, I don't like this part. So you disassemble it and then you build it up. And then finally, you have this structure. And it's like, oh, awesome. It's a tank. I made a tank with my Legos. You don't glue that together and just keep it as a tank, right? You have to
Mm-hmm.
do, those are still pieces that you can rearrange eventually. And so what these iconic flow drills are in Filipino martial arts, sabayan, sabrada, dakupi puño, puño mano, all and variations of them. What they are somebody else's structures that they created from the same Lego pieces that how they fit together. And it could have been like that grandmaster created that drill while he was drunk or taking a dump or half asleep. I was like, oh, maybe I can. And then they do a seminar and then they teach this flow drill to a group of really enthusiastic Westerners, and they think, wow, I'm going to learn this drill and then I'm going to teach this drill. And then that's how these drills become sort of iconic
Mm-hmm.
and become permanent fixtures. But I'm like, I don't want to study the structure somebody has created. I want to understand how those pieces interlock with one another so that I can become like them and create. And that's not something that you need years and years and years and years of, experience to do. I encourage my students, actually, all of my students have created their own drills. Some of them really suck for sure. Like they're no good.
Yeah, well, you
And
have that.
that's part of playing with Legos, You're not going to create a masterpiece each time you lock these blocks together. Um, Another thing where I guide a group of people to create a drill with me, I would say, okay, I'm going to do two moves. I'm going to do this and then this. And then I go, okay, based on this motion, what would the next strike or block, what would you like to do? And they're like, well, maybe I want to do this. I'm like, okay, so let's try that. One, two, three. Everybody like that? Cool. All right. The flow drill starts with one, two, three. You, from this position, what are you thinking? They're like, I kind of want to punch upward. I'm like, all right, let's try it. One, two, three, punch upward. Wonderful. All right, let's keep that. And then I would pair people up and I would go, okay, you have a solo form that looks like this. One, two, three, four. Okay. I want you to defend those things and be like, okay, well, the first strike is this way. So maybe I meet it like that. And all of a sudden, once they complete that loop, they've got a really cool flow drill. And then you test it out. And it might be awesome for two or three people because they have a deficiency with this punch. They're not so good with the backhand lateral. And then that's it. It's so easy. It's so easy to create your own drill. Everybody should be creating drills. Everybody. Yeah. And if
That's
it's good, you share it and then people steal it and borrow and take it. And you're not worried about people stealing your ideas because it's not about the final structure that matters. It's your ability to create that's going to define your value as an instructor. So that's why I share. Like my Instagram is full of, drills that I've created. Some people have actually taken those drills and made it a part of their curriculum. Cool, wonderful. I forgot even how to do that drill, so that's okay. You can have it. By the way, that's a pretty good one. One, two, three, four. Save the recording. Maybe maybe I'll make a video about that and I'll make that into a drill. Yeah, because
yeah.
it takes you across multiple ranges too. You have your long range strikes, you have your mid range, and then your close range. So then you think, okay, what footwork do I need to do to be able to support the fact that that five strike combination traverses through long, medium, and close range. And what does the defender need to do to be able to meet those things? So we just made a drill, bro. We just made a drill right now.
My man, I appreciate that so much. It's really cool. It's hard. I'm gonna be honest because you're so honest with me. It's really hard for me as a white guy in the Midwest to think I'm gonna make up a Filipino martial arts drill.
And
Uh,
don't do that to yourself. Now, there are
oh,
going to be Filipinos who are like, who the hell are you? I'm not one of those Filipinos. In fact, I'm one of those Filipinos who says one of the best things that ever happened to Filipino martial arts is when big, strong white dudes decided they liked it. That's
wow.
that's one of the best things to happen to Filipino martial arts. It's what's kept it alive during the dark days. Is there were people like you and Guru Greg Nelson, you know what I mean, and Rick Fay and Jared Wihungi and all of these white dudes who are like, hey, we're gonna spread this in Arkansas and Alabama, and there's something to this. So without that, Filipino martial arts would be nowhere near where it's at right now, and it's not even that big. So thank you, white guys, and please, I want to empower you. If I need to give you your your Filipino card for you to be able to go, oh yeah, I can make my own thing. Here, just email me. I'll give you your Filipino card. You deserve it. Thank
Ch-
you.
checks in the mail.
It's in the mail. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
that.
but don't feel that way, man. Don't feel that way at all. I mean, Dan Inosanto is a pretty white guy too, like he's never been to the Philippines. I think he was born in America. I think,
Yeah,
like some people will find that insulting. That's not what I mean, JKD. People relax. But I mean, he's a Western guy more than he is Filipino, really. I think that's fair. I don't think that's insulting,
I
you
think
know.
he would say he's probably a California boy. I
I think so too. Yeah. I,
yeah.
I met him several times. The first time I met him, I took his hand and I did the mano po because I didn't know much about him. I thought
Uh-huh.
he barely spoke English because, anyway, well, I did that. And he's like, well, boy, this guy's traditional. And I'm like, oh shit, sorry, Guru Dad. Like, I didn't know. Yeah. Anyway, long story short,
I like
I'll
it.
give you.
I thank you for sharing that story, and yeah, I'm glad I was blatantly honest about that. It's weird the things that we can get butthurt over.
Yeah, it is.
Just as people. When I first
Mhm.
moved to New York City, I went to a martial arts school, and when they looked at inside deflection or roof block, they didn't call them by the names that my teacher had. They said stick pointed up, stick pointed down defenses.
Okay. Yeah.
And at that moment, I was young, and mine, I learned it from a white black guy. So I don't know what how I felt like, you know what I
No.
mean? Like I had something to say about it, but I was really really irritated by that. And now when I have to teach students and there's a bigger class, what better way to say it sometimes when you don't
Yeah.
speak Filipino than to
Yep.
say, well, your stick is pointed up or stick is pointed down or it's pointed at them. Those those are the three things that'll happen right before the block.
Yeah. And utilizing universal terminology is a great teaching tool because then people don't have to memorize what something's called. They can just understand what it is, right? So if I told you, give me an upward diagonal backhand strike, what would that look like? So upward diagonal backhand. Do it. Right. So I can call that an angle four for you, but then if I told you it's an upward diagonal backhand strike, that's what it's going to be. Right. So you partition it into forehand, backhand, or linear,
Hmm.
and then you delegate a trajectory to it. Right. Is it a downward? Is it an upward? Is it a linear? Is it a backhand? Is it a forehand? And then all of your strikes are there. Yeah.
Simplifying, sir. That is supposed to be a piece of JKD, is simplifying. And
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so can I ask, when you look at different people and how do you tell the difference, or what are the big differences you've seen from somebody that's technically trained or
Mhm.
tactically trained? Obviously both are
Um,
important.
yeah. No, wow. There's a few offensive ways in which I can answer that question. My daughter's just come home from school. I'm gonna. Oh, there we go. So the difference, I'm glad this isn't live, but it's okay. So the difference between somebody who's technically trained and tactically trained, do you want me to swing to, do you want the good news or the bad news first? Because each one has a flaw. They both have flaws, but they
Mhm.
both have benefits.
I want the Paulo Rubio answer, which I absolutely think has been genuine thus far. So wherever you
Yeah.
think it should start and end, that's what we're looking for.
So somebody who approach it, I know we're talking about Filipino martial arts, you mean?
We'll just keep it in that realm. Yes, sir.
Okay. Um, my real answer is that it all depends if they spar. It all depends if they spar. Like if they spar, sparring is a natural disinfectant for bullshit, and
Hmm.
it's going to distill, filter, and contextualize a lot of the things that you're learning in Filipino martial arts. If somebody who trains, they go to a school that's very, very technical,
Hmm.
often in my mind, to me, that means they don't spar. It means they're too concerned with perfecting an angle or a series of angles. Somebody who's tactically trained, sometimes I think that they still don't spar. They just kind of wrap it in, camo pants,
Yeah.
beard, and tattoos. So a lot of these combative guys who do Filipino martial arts. I'm like, you guys still suck. Like you're just calling it differently and you're saying cut the carotid instead of throw an angle one. And you're saying blue worm evisceration instead of a lateral forehand strike. You still don't spar. You're still gonna kind of suck at this. So that's what I think. But generally speaking, these days, my mind has been changed. I would lean towards learning from technical refinement than tactical. But again, it all depends on that instructor, like who's
Hmm.
heading the tactical approach and who's heading the technical approach. Because it's easy to kind of, I'll tell you this, it's easier to fake tactical than it is to fake technical.
Ooh.
You really can't fake technical. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? If
Yeah.
that's a solid sequence that you just did, you can't really fake that. You can fake tactical pretty easily. Pretty
Yeah.
easily.
Do you find that your ability or your history as a storyteller maybe helps you to see the bullshit BS a little bit faster?
At first, no, it was actually my ability as a storyteller that allowed me to spread a lot of bullshit,
Mm.
because I could tell myself the story that this is valid or this works.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think my ability as a storyteller these days allows me to just share my findings in a way that's also entertaining.
Hmm.
Are you familiar with like improvisation, like improv games or whose line is it anyway, that kind of stuff?
Yes, sir. I acted in New York City, and that was something that I still absolutely love to do. And my classes, my students would say some days is a performance. So
Yeah, for
we
sure.
laugh.
I have an improv background. I was a national champion in Canada. I was recruited by the Second City comedy troupe.
Nice.
Yeah, I didn't end up going. I ended up choosing a career path that would have me study what happens behind the camera. But it's mostly that. I'm highly influenced by the idea of improv games. The fact that you're given a cue or a skeleton or a structure and you have to fill it in on the spot. So even my training methodology reflects that. I might put two students in a position and I would give them tasks, objectives, and constraints, So, okay, you find yourself in this position. You are not allowed to grab. Your objective is to draw your weapon and stab this person who's not allowed to grab you. Go ahead, play it out.
Mm.
So by adding these constraints, these tasks, these objectives, the focus comes away from me as an instructor to teach somebody the right move to do, but rather I've created an environment where the right solution can emerge.
Yeah.
right? And I mean, I could put them in a position that kind of guides them into the technique that I want them to learn,
Hmm.
but it's not always the case. They might find a different way to solve the problems that I gave them in a way that I did not expect them to find. And so in that way, I get to learn something too as an instructor. So yeah, more improvisation than, storytelling is what kind of helps me. What influences and guides me.
That's
Yeah.
fascinating. When I was first in New York trying acting, I was a martial artist, and sometimes we would go through shows or whatever. And everybody in New York, I felt like that was part of these productions were all there to be an actor. And I was
Mhm.
like, I just thought it'd be kind of cool. I want to be a martial arts teacher. Sometimes I have an opportunity and we'd be bored in between shows and I'd teach them Hubud.
Oh,
And
nice.
a couple people came up and was like, this must be how that you're good at acting because you haven't done any of this, but it's all a stimulus response type of thing,
For sure.
not saying that I'm very good as an actor, but at the same time, I always thought that was fascinating, you know, and thank you for sharing that piece as well. You get to train with your son a lot, right? Your son?
I do.
Yeah, I
Yes.
saw him in one of your Instagram videos. Well, more than one, doing different drills and whatnot. Do you enjoy being able to share that with your son?
Yeah, 100%. And my daughter as well.
Mm-hmm.
But, I've been training with my son ever since he was a baby. And I've been waiting for this time where he can actually do stuff at a high level. And what's really interesting about both my son and my daughter is that they have these fresh brains where I can show them a complex sequence or a super elaborate and sophisticated flow drill, and they're able to just pick it up so quickly. Um, which is a benefit to me because then once we cross that memorization barrier, then we can actually begin developing skill. Um, so yeah, I'm super jealous of that actually. But it helps. It helps. I'll just show them something that it took me like a week to learn, and my daughter would do it in 5 minutes, or you know, yeah, it's a huge asset actually. Being able to, and it's a blessing to be able to train with my kids for sure. They don't always like it, but I've never really forced it on them. Sometimes I might be insistent, but it needs to be enjoyable.
Yeah, I agree. I did force it on my son, and he doesn't do it. So that's one of those things of how it
Yeah.
goes,
I mean, it's a
"Ah!"
toss. It's a toss up. There's no right way. Some people you force it on them and then they develop a passion for it.
Mhm.
Sometimes you don't force it on them and they develop a passion for it. So who knows?
Yeah. As long as the passion comes out, who really cares? I mean, at the end
Yeah.
of the day. Yeah.
And at early stages of learning, it's more important to develop general skills and coordination anyway than to specify too quickly.
Hmm.
Um, develop their timing, their distance management, their ability to earn those angles. And then they can do Muay Thai and boxing and Taekwondo or Jiu-Jitsu. They'll apply the skill sets, the attributes that they develop to the specific thing that they fall in love with. So, you force your kid to do these things, maybe who knows, one day they'll end up falling in love with something, and the skills and attributes that they learn in training with you helps them be better at that thing they're passionate about. So it's not a loss or anything like that. It's always going to be a part of them.
Yeah, for sure. You have some big seminars coming up. You're going to go to Malaysia, I think I saw. And have you been over there in that area? You grew up, or you were born in the Philippines, if I remember correctly, and then ended up in Canada. Um, but now you're going to be touring like worldwide. Is that new to be in that area back there doing those things, or?
I've never been to Malaysia, but that three city tour, it's going to be in Japan, in Tokyo, and then in Malaysia, and then in China as well. And then there's people who want me to go to Guam and Indonesia and the Philippines, but I'm like, I don't want to stay away from home too long. But yeah, I resisted teaching and doing seminars for a long, long time. And then this will be my third year traveling to do seminars. But I've never been to Malaysia. I'm really looking forward to it, mostly because I want to have rendang curry and chili crab. Secondarily, to build community and do martial arts, but mostly for the food.
Yeah. Well, that's legit. That's
Yeah.
legit for sure.
Yeah. No, but seminar training is a whole different beast,
Hmm.
because my mandate as a seminar instructor, I don't have the luxury of time and being able to really craft technical skills in a seminar. Like if I have you for Saturday and Sunday for 5, 6 hours a day, it's going to be very difficult. And I don't want to just show a buffet of look what I can do. You didn't, you can get that show for free on Instagram. I'm there to either, I'm there to either develop an existing skill set, introduce them to a skill set they might want to pursue, but mostly the most important thing for me is to give people training experiences that will cement into their subconscious and intuition so that should a real event unfold, then those training experiences where they felt fear, nervousness, anticipatory stress, some physiological stress response, having to make, critical decisions under an extreme time constraint because they had a training experience that replicated moments of real world.
Hmm.
It's not a technique, but it's those training experiences that hopefully again be cements into your subconscious and comes out when you need it. So for me, providing meaningful training experiences trumps me trying to teach you a technical skill because you and I already agreed that you learn the jab day one, but it's a
Hmm.
lifetime of refinement to get good at it. So, and I always tell them like, look, guys, I can teach you how to throw an angle one better than you have been throwing them. And that's all we'll do in these 2 days. Anybody up for that? You want this to be an angle one seminar for 12 hours? They're like, no, no. So it's that. And the challenge is that I need to show them a variety of things, a variety of games, drills, sequences, practices, exercises, forms. I need to give them all of that, but still have it be congruent. Not just a whole bunch of techniques that you'll never get good at and you'll forget, but in what way do these different things develop these handful of things?
Mm.
That's the difficulty in doing a seminar. And I take that, like, that's what I've been really focusing on over the last 2, 3 years is like crafting these drills and arranging them in such a way that gives it the highest probability to serve and give value to the most diverse group of people. Like, how do we do that? It's not just me regurgitating crap that I learned and here it is. No,
Hmm.
that's too easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fascinating too, because earlier we had talked about your teaching, and I remember you had said that you are not in the position where you have to. Uh, you're going to teach whatever it is you feel like you want to teach at that time, and everybody else is going to have to catch up on them for the most part,
In a way. Yeah.
right?
But it's not, yeah, yeah, absolutely right. But I take that with a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
Particularly in a seminar setting, because regularly scheduled classes, fine. We have the luxury
Hmm.
of time, So I'll that day maybe I wanted to learn this thing. This is what we're gonna do for the next hour and a half in my class, my regularly scheduled class.
Hmm.
Two completely different beasts, right?
Yeah.
Regularly scheduled classes and then short form, like a seminar.
Yeah. What I thought was fascinating is the same guy who said that also said, I'm going to create a meaningful experience. right? You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? And out of curiosity,
Mhm.
and I'm well, you don't seem like a type of guy. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but out of curiosity, you're teaching your students uh, what the thing that you want to work on at that time, and you don't necessarily have to cater to making sure that they're going to sign the 2-year contract or
Yeah.
whatever, right? What is your student retention? I bet pretty decent.
Um, yeah, I mean, so when I used to teach at a place called Seoul Martial Arts, it's 5 minutes away from me.
Hmm.
And my adult class, I think maybe at its peak, we had 15 students, right?
Hmm.
And they would come and go. I would have maybe a core of 8 students. But my kids class became the fastest growing, biggest class in that academy. Um, because you know, kids want to have fun, their parents want them to develop skill, they want them to develop character, and they got all of that from my Filipino martial arts class. But currently, I don't have the burden of, having to pay for utility bills and rent to teach out of an academy.
Hmm.
I don't teach Filipino martial arts out of a place like that. Right. So recently, a new gym acquired me, Elevation Martial Arts, and I'll be teaching adult and kids classes there on a Saturday. And my student retention there, who knows what it'll be, but it's not my concern. I'm just going to do what I do. It's the gym that is concerned with that, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that makes
yeah.
sense. And it just without that pressure piece, whatever, and the very fact like that you care about your students, I can tell. And, in your mind, you're trying to craft meaningful experiences to take on the road, if you will. Like, I just would imagine that you have a pretty good student retention rate,
Yeah,
just in general.
the core people who train with me, yeah, they're in for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. I bet
Yeah.
if I was around, I'd be there, brother. I'm just telling you right now. The whole idea that you're trying to create meaningful experiences,
Yeah,
that
for
you're
sure.
right, and the fact that you just gave the white guy card to me earlier to create
You're
my own
welcome,
drills.
bro. Welcome. Let's have it renewable every 12 months, let's say. Okay.
uh, could I reach out to you to pick your brain on how to teach kids sometimes?
Yeah, for sure. By the way, so I've created a whole bunch of games because, like, Filipino martial arts is a weapons-based art. My
Hmm.
youngest student is 5.
Yeah.
And so still like, I don't want parents to think that I'm teaching them knife work and machete.
Yeah.
And so I've created probably 100 different games that develop Filipino martial arts skill in a way that's kind of hidden, you know? So yeah, absolutely. You can reach out to me and I'll share with you some of the games that I play with my kids for my Filipino martial arts class. But I almost lost my train of thought. I'm going to start holding seminars, and I think I'm going to call it um, like kids class for adults.
Mm.
And it's basically a series of these games that I've developed with my kids class, and we're going to play them with adults. And I think it's going to be a big hit because whenever I play these games at my seminars, I typically reserve it for the last hour or two. And it's like the highlight of the whole seminar. Adults want to play these games because um, I'm rambling, but if I can just get
Please.
this out. When you go to a Filipino martial arts seminar, there's going to be people in there who's going to want to win at drills.
Yes, brother.
And I hate those people. I'm like, and I love kind of wrangling them. I have a process to do that. But you show them the beginning because sometimes you can't show the full drill, so you stagger it, right?
Hmm.
So you show, okay, do this and then do this. And then they're off doing 5 more moves after that. I'm like, hey, stay where I've left you off. Don't assume that you know where I'm going. But also, I know you know stuff. You don't need to show it off, right? So people always try to win drills.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. I need to do something about this. So I created games. The difference between a drill and a game is you don't try to win a drill, you try to win a game. So I've created drills where people can be competitive with one another, but it has to be efficient. It has to be scalable to the different skill sets. It has to be fun. You have to develop skill, and you have to do it in a way where ego isn't involved, right? Because you want to win, but you're not going to win every game, not the way I compose them. So that's difficulty. But I tell students, especially some of these guys who like really jacked and like they're like, "Oh, I'm a martial artist." I like to humble them a little bit. And one way I do that is, if I partner you up, you're this big, strong former Division One wrestler. If I partner you up with that guy who works at HR for a bank,
Yeah.
right? I want you to find a way to make the game more challenging for you so that your victory isn't guaranteed, but you're serving that other person. So, for
Mm.
example, I might just take you aside and be like, hey, look, the game will have this guy trying to just hit you as fast as he can. And your objective is to do the same to him. But what if you just took his barrage and you show me how well you can defend in tight in the pocket? And so all of a sudden, that jock is willingly absorbing hits from a guy that shouldn't be beating him, but he's doing it because he wants to develop his ability to defend sequential attacks in the pocket without backing up. Right. And so I have this thing where I'm saying, hey, look, we're going to play different games and we're going to play them differently. You know, different people will play the game with different objectives. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm super excited because I'm going to hold a seminar. I believe it's in Switzerland in October, where the biggest chunk of it is games, the games we play. Yeah, it's gonna be great. But
Brother,
yeah, I'm happy to share all that stuff with you. I'm an open book.
wow. I can actually see that, Paulo. Absolutely, 100% here, in our virtual world, and my wife follows you on Instagram. She also trains, and, she just recently went out to Guaranasanos with me for the first time. And, I said I was going to have you on the show today. I got street cred here at the crib now because,
Sweet.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Nice.
That's what I'm talking about. Brother, would you like to come back and talk with us again? I enjoyed
Sure,
this.
anytime. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I appreciate you. It's Jamie Sparling, the FormABLE Podcast, Affinity Martial Arts, Wausau, Wisconsin, and Paolo Rubio, GN, here. And we're going to get him back on the show, guys. This is going to be great. We'll see you soon. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Thanks.